editor from Variety, and so excited to be here tonight. What an amazing film. So, without further ado, let me introduce this incredible panel. We have makeup head Donald Moab. Tonight, right, Denny?
Yeah, that's a nice room. I knew that there was so many people. I would have put something else than my pajama. So you see the true me tonight.
All right, let's just get a show of hands. How many of you have seen this for the first time tonight? All right, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow. Denny, how did you know that that was the point where you were going to end and be like, I'm going to make part 2?
Sorry?
How did you know that that was the point where you were going to end the book and the movie and say, I'm going to make part 2 after this?
I apologize. I'm still in my sleeping, obviously. I don't understand the question.
She means when we divided up the book, where you said the end point, you and John were.
Oh, but that's a question for John. The truth is, it was like a long, I apologize. It was a long process to find the right way how to end part 1. We decided right from the start that the movie would be segmented in 2 parts. And there was some theories that it should end a little bit earlier. The first version was much later, and then we found this equilibrium there.
In the novel, there is a natural break where the action leaps forward a couple of years. And since it takes a couple of years to make a movie, that would be a lovely time to jump into the second film. Find everyone 2 years later and that much more tanned and muscular. But in practice, we found that in trying to craft a 3-act structure out of the first half of this dense novel, the tragedy of the Atreides took on a natural form. They were lifted in Act 1 from their accustomed lives and sent into danger among the wicked. They learned strange secrets about themselves and about the world they were entering. In Act 2, everything fell down around them, and in the climax, as the fall of the house of Atreides is being perpetrated, we see Paul and Jessica win through, and the house survives because they survive. And that fragile hope felt like a natural ending. To make it to that time jump would have required a 4th act in the story, a new beginning, entering a new world, forging new identities and alliances among those people. The story that you've seen felt so emotionally draining to us and so powerful that to, at the end of that tragedy, ask people to embark briefly on a new adventure and then roll credits. Never would have worked. So ultimately we found our way home to this moment and sliced things in 2 in a little bit so that we were able to conclude Paul's coming of age here, his choice to follow his father's path into the desert, to leave the world of the great houses for the world of the Fremen. But on the other side of that transition, to arrive among the Fremen part of that story, we pushed into the future.
Mary, you've been involved with this since 2013. When Denis comes to you and says, you know, we're going to do this as 2 parts, what was your reaction?
Relief. It felt it was absolutely the right move.
Donald, your makeup work on this is absolutely incredible. We have to ask you about Stellan Skarsgård and transforming him into Baron Harkonnen. That suit, the prosthetics, how long did that all take to put together?
18 weeks. But I think to go back, that's really all thanks to Denis and Mary and everybody for wanting to do a practical makeup. Because a lot of people now they just they don't have maybe the passion, and not all films are able to do it, and they just, I think it's a courageous thing to be able to look and take a character and a great actor like Stellan, who wants to do a practical makeup that will take a fair amount of preparation, and try a couple of tests to see how it would work. And I thought that was incredible that we could get the team in Sweden to prepare it over roughly 16 weeks to build the fat suit. It's an incredible amount of work. And then a makeup application of 4 to 6.5 hours. It's a huge undertaking. It took 7 sculptors from all over Europe to do that detail work. But I really give it's very rare we get an opportunity in what we do to have that opportunity.
Denise, what was your reaction when you saw Stellan in makeup as Baron Harkonnen for the first time?
First of all, I have to say that a lot of credit goes to Stellan, because when I called him to do the part, he had one question, and the question was, do you want to do the character in CG or with prosthetics? And I said, I would love to do it for real, for prosthetics. And then I'm in, because he really wanted to be there to embody the character. He really wanted to be there, to act in person, and not and to be not to do something virtually. And he when I saw the result for the first time, I loved him so much. I mean, if Stellan were walking here right now, the Baron, there would be a huge silence. He was really impressive, and it looks so real, and I loved him so much that I decided that the first time we will see the Baron, I love him so much naked that I decided that there was no scene with the Baron naked, but I said, okay, I changed the nature of the opening scene to put him in a steam bath, because I just loved the way, how powerful and how beautiful it was. I was expecting, to say the truth, that we will have to help the prosthetic with CGI, but we didn't. It was, honestly, it was like a piece of art. I mean, and Stellan really loved it, because it helped him a lot to construct his character.
I was lucky enough to be on set that day, and I wasn't set on that much because it wasn't needed there, but he changed instantly. He was so happy in that big body, walking around the set, showing himself to people, and instantly he was making the sounds.
We have to remember that Stellan is Swedish.
Oh, it was incredible, big, weird sexless body, and just so big. But you could see that the performance really was a collaboration on the fly between the being you built and the way he inhabited that. It was amazing.
At the opposite end of that, you've got Timothy Chalamet, no makeup, but there's a natural, like, you know, when he's out in the desert and the sand. And I think Donald Moore, I think you're one of the few people that actually has managed to control his hair on screen. Talk about the natural look.
Well, the little things will get you, and it's subtle is hard, you know. Sometimes with Stellan, we would laugh because Luke and I would look at each other, you know, and say that, you know, sometimes you take on something huge, but once it's done, it's done. And once we got the approval and everyone signs off on it, it's done. It's not going to change that much. You get into the suit. But maintaining the continuity of Timmy and Rebecca was over 4 months or 5 months is really hard, because people change on a weekly or daily basis. You go from the sun and Jordan back to Budapest, and maintaining the color of the skin and keeping the hair, and it doesn't seem like a lot, but when I kind of look back on it, it is a lot of detail, small details that people don't notice until it's wrong. And I guess that's just one of those things. So I think we laughed the other day when I was thinking of the scene, Stellan, we were looking at a couple of the continuity pictures, that when we had to pick anything up or looking at something, it didn't worry me as much. But trying to match Oscar Isaac and his beard was hell. I mean, I lost sleep, and we talked about it, where I didn't with Stellan or Dave Bautista, but I did with Rebecca and Timmy, and so the little things will get you, that's for sure.
And you made a joke about it right at the beginning, but Timothy's hair are alive. I mean, it's really like it's something that you have like you can have 200 extra explosion and everything happens, but the hair. It's really it was not making jokes, but it's true.
Let's talk about your casting, Denis. Like, how did you put together the perfect cast for Dune?
But I will say it's teamwork. Like it's like having been with the novel for so many years, having written the screenplay with Eric Roth and John. We spent months and months and months, and at the end of that process, of course, I started to have like some names in my mind, and it was always the same. Mary and I would sit together, and this character, what do you think, Timmy? I will propose them. She will bounce back, bring an idea. We will, and the list that is the people that are on screen is pretty close to my dream list. Sometimes people are not available. So it's like, and I will say that it's a book that created a lot of enthusiasm in the actors community. So it was nice to people. There was a lot of positiveness. It was not. I would not say it was a difficult cast to do. It was a long process because there's a lot of character. Yeah, and I wanted each of them to be very close to the description in the book.
John and Denis, talk about the sound and the score by Hans Zimmer. It's an incredible score. Like, did you put that into the script or talk about that?
When you're doing a world-building film like this, you can't evoke a scene the way you can during a New York drama. When you say a taxi cab pulls up in front of a cafe and a guy drops the paper and gets in the car, everyone knows what all those things look like. Suddenly ornithopters are flying in front of a spaceport on a desert planet and there's a sandworm. You cannot take the time on the page to describe all those things. So all you can do is attempt to evoke them in a few lines of poetic language. And of course, behind everything for the creative team, there's the book that calls to you. But all you can do to all the other departments that have come along behind you to try to realize the movie is to spin a little poetry to tell them what you see. And Denis, in a larger way, of course, is doing that with images from very early on. And so, no, you can't write music and you can't draw a picture of it. All you can do is point to the inspiration in the book that called the movie out of you and invite the other artists to follow that inspiration in their own way.
I would say that to add to what John said, that there were like elements that were present in the screen. Not, of course, as we didn't describe the music, but the idea of spirituality, the sacred quality of the environments, the relationship of the human with nature. There was things that were keys to inspire Hans. But I will say that Hans was the artist that I approached at first for this project, because at the time we were finishing Blade Runner together, and I had just had a first meeting with Mary, and I talking about Dune with Hans, I discovered that it's one of his favorite books, and he was dreaming. It was one of his biggest dreams, seriously, to score Dune. So it's something that he knows the book as much as John and I knows the book. I mean, he read it many times, so it was like I will say that I don't think that he needed us to be inspired, frankly.
Denis has been wanting to make, well, he's been obsessed with this book since what, you were 14 years old? John, what about for you? What's your relationship with the book?
Very similar. I think I read it first at 13 or so, and then it became a book I reread every summer for many years growing up. So it was a world I lived in a lot as a young man.
And Mary, for you?
I read it when I was younger, and I really liked it, but I read it again, I think, probably in my late 20s, and I came at it from a totally different perspective, and it stayed with me, especially as it began to resemble our own world more and more, and so much so that then I began to sort of track it and see what was happening with the rights, and I'm sort of fascinated by the fact that we've managed to evolve as human beings. We've survived an AI war. Here we are, evolved, yet we're sort of up to our same old tricks again, And so the sort of cautionary tale of power, the ecological aspects, and of course of young people sort of navigating their way in a broken world felt very urgent.
Donald, what were the challenges of doing this makeup out in Budapest and on location and in the desert?
It's actually quite a lot of fun. It's fun because I love working with Denis because there's always there's always a makeup element in his films, to me, because it's based in reality, or less is more, and less is more is, for me, and just in my opinion, is often a lot harder than it appears on the big screen. And it's fun to work with actors in creating a world or creating characters that aren't all about just the audience saying, oh, look at that makeup or the hair or the prosthetics. So it's a lot of fun and it's a great challenge, especially this cast, where it's just incredible because everybody was collaborative. Nobody was trying to do something opposite. It felt like every single department and every cast member wanted to be part of this film. And we don't often get that. After a while you feel like it's a very rare opportunity. So I think people embraced it, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, there's hard days. There's days that you start very early in the morning, or you have a complicated, there were eyebrow covers are very difficult on Harkonnens. They're hard makeups. Dave Bautista, it's a hard makeup, I won't lie. It's challenging because it can pick up the dust and things can go wrong with it, and but it's a lot of fun to do, and when it works right and it looks good, you're happy, and it's a great challenge.
Denis, I have to talk to you about the cinematography, and Greg Fraser's work on this is phenomenal. The compositions. Talk about the conversations that you had with Greg about framing, especially Timothy, because this is Paul's journey, really, right?
Yeah, the idea was, first of all, that we will follow a boy discovering a new world. So the camera will be very close to him and just above his shoulder, and the idea will be to embrace most of the time his point of view, as we did with the screenplay, and to try to shoot this world, always to bring the feeling to the audience that the world, the nature is too big, that the ecosystems are too big to be captured at one glance. And that is why, if you look at the movie, most of the time things are in the edges, and the camera has to tilt up to try to be able to barely embrace shapes or creatures or the landscape. It's always like and trying to bring back the humanity to its right place in the ecosystems. That's humans are not powering, but being part of the environment. And with Greg, we tried our best to embrace nature, to bring a feeling of familiarity to the world, to bring a naturalism and a realism to the world as much as we could, trying to bring the power of nature, not trying to go away from postcards as much as we can, but trying to bring the power of the desert into the camera. Yeah, and luckily, nature was great for us. I mean, we shot in a season in Jordan and in Abu Dhabi, where we knew that the sky will be white, blown up, and luckily enough, we had a lot of winds in Jordan, so that it looked harsh. We were very happy. We were very lucky in Jordan. Then we paid in Budapest because it was raining a lot. It's something you cannot deal with on Arrakis, rain.
Donald, I'm going to ask you about Charlotte Ramping's character. She's incredible. Talk about, did you actually create a look for her under that veil?
Yes, because I think it was really important for her. I think as this thing of wearing a veil, and it was such an incredible look. But I think it's also Charlotte Rampling, that it helped her tremendously. But I think even the little things for me to be in costume, and that she came to us, and we did put her in a very pale makeup, and other people would say to me, why would you put Charlotte in makeup? She's covered up. But it was important to her, which becomes important to me. And I think that's it's something that's solid, and it brings, I guess, a comfort to the set a little bit. And so yeah, we just, and I think there was a kind of parallel with Rebecca, and I thought it might be nice, and they liked it, that they wore sort of the exact same color, sort of base tone. But again, it's something that some actors feel special, or it's something that they share, and it was nice for them to have something in common. I don't know, it's one of those things. And my OCD kicks in a little bit, and Charlotte was very happy with that, so that's what we did with her.
I love that you mentioned the costumes. Jacqueline's costume design is incredible. I mean, talk about the still suits and seeing, I guess, Timothy for the first time in your casting.
I know, it was like, that was a lot of work, and they had, Jacqueline West and Bob Morgan, they had not a lot of time and a lot of work to do, and I remember one day I was like doing like 30 Fremen warriors in front of me. I had to adjust the steel suit, and suddenly I turn and I see that guy behind me, and it's like a strong Fremen, you know, someone that has a very magnetic and powerful look, and I said, wow, that one looks absolutely fantastic, and it was Timothy. I didn't recognize him, and the thing is that with Timothy is that his body posture was different. When he was wearing a steel suit, he was he is really an actor that transformed himself, and it's going to be interesting to work on the part 2 to see where it's going to go, because I had to push the brake with him all the way to part 1, because he was looking forward to be the Muad'Dib, you know. He wanted to be the Lisan al-Gaib. I said, no, not yet, you're not a messiah, you're just a boy. It was a reluctant about that.
For so many people, Dune was like a return to the cinema. What is that like for you, to hear these stories of people seeing this on the big screen for the first time and feeling such joy?
Joy. The thing is that when we started the project, of course, it was before the pandemic, and my team and I, it was really like meant to be a love letter to the theatrical experience, to the big screen. I remember having those direct discussion with Greg Fraser, that it would be a movie that people will want to see on the big screen, because the way we will do the composition, the way we will the subject matter, the landscape, the scope of it, the very nature of the project, of being very immersive. You follow a character into a landscape, the landscape will transform that character. It will be an introspection journey for this character being in contact with this new planet. It's like it was a perfect project for IMAX, so the fact that you are all here tonight, thank you so much, and the fact that the people went to see in the theater, and the fact that the movie is back in the IMAX right now after all those weeks, that's for me, it's like that's beautiful gift, I would say. It's Christmas before Christmas.
Okay. Dune 2. Donald, have you started any looks on thinking about it?
Maybe just a few little thoughts.
We are still recovering from the first one, we are right now. If I may stop the discussion about Dune 2, we are at the dream state right now. I know reality will hit soon, but we're still writing and starting to design, and so it's like I'm always reluctant a little bit to talk about the project when they are about to be born, because it's like a fragile.
But Hans has done the soundtrack or the score.
Yeah, it's already.
Right?
Hans, it's very funny because we finished the movie. Yet because of the pandemic, he had more time. That was a good thing, and he did the score. We were super happy, and then the movie's finished, and then I received an email with more music. And I received music all summer. I'm still receiving music right now. He's scoring, go on. He's uber inspired, and I saw, yes, part 2 is mostly scored. Just have to follow the music.
Well, you heard it here first. Dune 2's been scored already. Just kidding. Donald, John, Denis, Mary, thank you so much.
Thanks to you.